we are go. Just
keep your shift short. Go hard ways.
game on! Game on!
Game on, buddy. Welcome to the Straight Off Play podcast, people. I'm your co-host, Dash, a.k.a. Dash Park. With me in the entire fire, as always. My partner in crime over there. I hear him cracking a beer already. Mike Dursa. How you doing, bud?
Well, we got started a little late. We got a new technical guy, and he looks like he's changed a couple things here. Yeah.
Jeez, maybe we keep this one.
Maybe.
Oh, we got an echo, buddy.
Well, then we're gonna have to play with a couple things here. Can you hear me now?
No, I can hear you just fine, but I'm getting a we are not good echo.
I don't have it on mine.
No, I don't hear it here either.
Yeah, maybe we're clear for takeoff now.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we can just keep trying and see how it goes. Somebody will text you.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. So, there's a new oiler.
Yes, sounds like we've got our draft pick. Anyways, interesting. We just about made it on air on time to talk about that pick when he traded down. But yeah, looks like Xavier Bourgault is the guy, and yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know a ton about him, and I guess we're gonna learn. Clearly, Holland knew who he wanted and thought he would be there in order to trade down like that, I think. But I think the advantage is now we got another pick in the third round, which is nice because we didn't pick again until the fourth round, if that's the case. The other scenario, as I sat and watched it, was maybe Fabian Lysell was their guy. He went at the pick before, and he was sliding. He was top 10, top 15 in a lot of draft rankings. So I wonder if that was it as well. But clearly they didn't want a goalie because there was one available that Minnesota went after at the 20th pick that they got from us. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough to judge right now. Tough to be too upset. Tough to be mad, tough to be happy. I think it's a weird draft year, right? We don't really know a lot about these guys, and they didn't get to play a lot of hockey, unfortunately. So, yeah, what do you think about the new Oiler? What do you think about the draft so far?
Well, if Michael here is being honest, I've kind of been out of the prospect game a little bit for for a while. I used to go to Lethbridge Hurricane games as a kid. Back when they had Jamie McLennan and Corey Lyons, Brad Rubachuk, Wes Walls, Dusty Emu, pretty stacked team back then. And, I could tell you more about guys in the Western League back then, but...
Do you know anything about Zach Dean from Grand Prairie? Because he just got picked by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round of the 30th pick.
Zach Dean, eh?
Yeah, he's from Grand Prairie. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but that pick just came on, and the Habs are on the clock.
Does it show where he played junior?
I'll keep watching. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I can honestly say I live in Grand Prairie and I don't really know who Zach Dean is, but
Let's hope
um,
Zach Dean's mom isn't listening. That'd be a big disappointment there.
I'm thinking he probably wasn't playing for the Grand Prairie Storm and left the grandest prairie of them all
Sure,
a
that's
few
true.
years ago when he was younger. So that's probably why I don't know him. But yeah, unfortunately, there's 70,000 people in this city and I don't know them all.
You know, that's what
Not,
happens.
not,
But
not yet, but I shake hands for a living and, you know.
well, I did interrupt you, I think, as you were going through your thoughts on the draft thus far. So I pardon me, but thought that was an interesting pick as it came across the wire.
No, that's definitely fine to ask me about a local product that I probably should know something about.
Busted.
Yeah, and I don't know. He probably is 3 years older than, or 3 years younger than my oldest son. So chances of me coaching him when he was in Adams are probably not that good because that's
Right.
about when my last coaching stint was.
It's cool when you can look back to those times, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
You ever coach anybody that made it?
not. Mm, I don't think so. No,
Well, maybe that says something about your coaching, Durs.
it just might. You know. I had a goalie that was you had to console him after every game because he was sad all the time. Um, that
Oh,
that was my coaching experience. It was kind of fun.
that makes it tough.
Yeah, hockey's it's a little bit different now, but that's okay. In many ways, it's better.
That's right.
Yeah, about this kid we drafted there, the Xavier Borgo. I guess I'm gonna pronounce it that way. Looks
Yeah,
like he
that's
had
right.
looks like he had 20 goals, 20 assists in 29 games. That's pretty good production. Not the biggest guy, but right-handed centerman. 6 foot, and I can't remember what the weight was, like 165 or
185. No,
185.
185, 183 or
Okay,
something like that.
okay.
Yeah, decent
So
sized kid for 18 for sure.
yeah,
Right-handed center.
for six foot kid, that's about me when I was 19. So there we go.
Yep.
But I didn't have the 49 points in or 40 points in 29 games.
Well, I mean, you were the Lady Byng Award winner in the Wayne Gretzky of the Grade 11 Massachusetts Hockey
There
League.
you go. That was pretty close.
Hey, hey. Durst called me
My
out on my pronunciation of his previous home state, and I had to go back and listen to it about 3 or 4 times, and I still think I had it right. But whatever, whatever you guys in Boston think, you're always right.
yeah, they get mad at you if you can't say Massachusetts properly, but try to get them to say car keys, and it comes out khakis, and
Oh
you know,
yeah, Kata
my
Kata Hot from Sherwood Park, Alberta. Here,
yeah,
you listen to this guys on Spit and Chicklets. It's a hoot to listen, get that accent in there.
Ryan
Uh,
Whitney hasn't lost it, that's for sure.
Zach Dean played for Gatineau in the QMJHL. 6 foot 176 centerman.
So technical guy has a bit of a confession with this new kind of display here. I couldn't figure out how to get the chat screen on here, so every once in a while maybe I'll just have a peek at it over top of everything. Oh, all right, all right, all right. And you losers see this? Echo from both mics. You're good now. Okay. And we'll put that away for a little bit because it looks kind of funny going over top of everything.
Hey, one of these times I'll get an intro in that actually people can understand.
Yeah, yeah. I think we got a little bit of a system now.
I've got them fooled. They just think I speak 4 languages right now. So
Well,
one of
there
them
you
is
go.
echo. My mic is fantastic, by the way, for all you people that want to blame my mic. It's just the system, okay? It's our tech guy. We fired 6 of them already.
Well, yeah. Basically, I have to shut my microphone off and desktop audio, and the only sources that we run are Dash NDI source and Mike D NDI source, and I think we are putting out a good product. I I don't know how loud I'm coming across, but it's quiet in my ears. But you come across like you're yelling at me, which is good because then it makes me, you know, push the pace a little bit here. Pucks in deep.
Get some energy in there, buddy. That's good. Well, maybe you deserve to be yelled at. I see you cracked your Coors already. I'm gonna have a little sip of my Bud Light.
Yeah. If anybody from
Cheers, bud.
Coors, if anybody from Coors would like to sponsor us, that you can't see the beer that we're drinking anyway, but that would be all right.
For sure. Well, my phone's ringing with Labatt tomorrow morning, I'm sure.
Oh man.
So what do you
So yeah,
think of where we're at otherwise outside of the draft? Looks like Zach Hyman's an Oiler. I listened to your pod without me last night, and I apologize for that. There's a little secret out there, but that's okay. We'll maybe keep it a secret because we can tease it as we go. But maybe I was at a very important meeting with an upcoming guest on the show, and they could only see me last night, last minute. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I went to bed early. You never know. But I think we got a few pretty cool guests lined up coming for the future. I heard you dangle Chris Dingman out there, so that'll be pretty cool to see what he's got to say. Maybe even committed for a couple episodes, from what I understand. We'll see if we can twist his arm. But pretty cool to have a guy that's won a couple Stanley Cups and been around the league and been through a Flames uniform down south and all of that fun stuff. So that'll be cool. And we'll wait to tease the other guys, but we've got a pretty solid lineup of NHLers coming to come and talk to us. So it's going to be fun to get this going, buddy.
yeah, it'd be interesting to get Chris Dingman's take, on Tampa.
Ah, for
You,
sure,
you know,
right?
because he spent a little bit of time there and all that. So
Was he
um,
still play-by-play there this year? Because he was play-by-play in color, was or color for Tampa Bay for a few years.
yeah, I don't think so. I think home base for him is now Edmonton, Alberta, and if you need some work gloves
He's
or
running his company. That's right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
that's
remember that
that's
now.
that's what he does.
Yep, that'll be excellent. Perhaps it was an Edmontonian I met with last night, or perhaps I went to bed early, whatever. But it'll be fun to get those guys out and get some different perspectives. And this off season's going to get to a point where it does boil down eventually. Here, we're at a pretty hot point still, where there's something new to talk about every minute, every hour. Um, Zach Hyman coming. I think it's something we all kind of saw coming, right? We've been dropping that name in our pod since we started this, and yeah, I said I love the player from the start. I think I love the player now. Obviously we're getting somebody that has a motor that can keep up with Connor. I like the fact that he's going to be able to play a more complementary role, right? I know I heard you say that you'd like to have a guy that can really snipe, and I don't mind that either. I think if we'd have got that Raquel or Hoffman or somebody that could just absolutely 1T all day long and go and bar down, but I ultimately, there's all components to chemistry in a line in hockey, and I think that you look over to how well McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog play in Colorado, right? And it's because they all got a bit of a different style. Like McKinnon is the speed, and he's that McDavid on the line. And what I like about this is Zach Hyman's got that motor where he can retrieve pucks, right? And I think that's also what Rantanen's key skill is. It's like that Yuri Lettinen I heard him referred to earlier today. One of those guys that just makes your line better, no matter who you play with, and so it's going to be great to have a guy like that. Zach Hyman's one of the better power forwards in the league right now, as far as one of those guys that can contribute and jump up and down the lineup. So, the downside is maybe the term. Ken Holland has come out and said that term is his currency, and for anybody that didn't hear that, it translates to, we live in Edmonton, man. We live in Northern Alberta, and it's not easy to get Americans up here. It's not easy to get free agents up here. It's great that we have Connor and Leon, and I think those guys are going to attract players. And they do attract players, but it's still cold, and we still have fans that are a-holes, and we still have a pretty big media base that's puts a lot of pressure, and it's a tough place to play, right? There's a lot of Oilers fans, and we're all passionate, and we all know our hockey. And so, that one guy at supper that asked to interrupt Connor McDavid or the one guy yelling at
Yeah.
Adam Larson from his car or whatever it is. Like it's, they end up speaking for the masses and it's tough, right? So when we've got that anchor and tied to us and it's tough to bring those guys in and Ken Holland's reduced to try to and it's a flat cap. We're in a flat cap. And at the end of the day, this is flat cap world. And when you do that, the way you keep the cap, the AVVs down and the cap, more flexible is by giving out the longer term. And whether it's Ken Holland saying, um, here's a mess in 7 years. I'm not going to be around. Somebody else clean this up. I don't know. I heard that thrown around today. Not sure there's any validity to that. I mean, what Lou Lamoriello is like 173 years old and he's still a GM. So ultimately, Holland could be here for 10 more years. I don't know. But, I heard Rashog say it today, and it's one of all the things I heard in the media today. It kind of struck a chord with me the most was Shoggy saying that we didn't have the circumstances, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, I think, but we didn't have the circumstances presented to us in the way that a lot of other teams had. And what he meant by that was a lot of the teams can build for the future, and a lot of the teams can build the right way and get a bunch of draft picks and keep getting all those value entry level contracts on their team. And ultimately, because of what Chiarelli left, and because of the fact that Connor McDavid and Draisaitl's contracts are up in 4 and 5 years or 5 and 6 years, 4 and 5 years, right?
4 and 5, I
Four
believe.
years for Dry and 5 for McDavid, right? So now all of a sudden that window is like we can't be out in the first round or not be making the playoffs for the next 4 years. Or we're at a dangerous risk of those guys walking at the end of their free agency, and then maybe we're in a run that year. Are they going to walk for nothing? Because we're not going to trade McDavid before a Stanley Cup run. So I don't know, right? Like I think what Shoggy meant was that this window is shortened, and Ken Holland wasn't given a pool with a deep end to dive into. He was given a shallow end to dive into, and you said it, my man. Episode one, Keith's signing was the signal that the time is now, and looks like Holland's saying the time is now. I still don't agree with how he's managing this cap, but I still hope that there's something else up his sleeve. And if term is what we have to give out in order to keep the AVV down, then you know what, man, I just want to win a cup.
Yeah, no, back to the Keith thing for a second. The part of that still, like, I got nothing against Duncan Keith. I think he'll help us. I still wish some salary was retained there. Holland
Like
comes out.
5.5 million.
Well, a
I'm
million,
still
million
better.
and million and a half. Um, could have went a long way. Um, he comes out yesterday and says he's not going big game hunting on a defenseman. Well, you kind of already did, but um, if you would have got Chicago to retain a million, million and a half,
Exactly.
$2 million, that puts you back into the Dougie Hamilton conversation. So what if you lose a draft pick in 2022 or 2023 to make it happen? Make it happen.
Yeah.
Build your
I
build
just
your
Dougie
build.
Hamilton's not coming back to Alberta, man. I think like we can pick a different name, but I know what you're saying theoretically.
Well, you're not in the conversation if you don't have the money to do it, right? And Seth Jones gets traded to Chicago
Whew.
today. Um, you know,
Didn't I predict
um,
that in episode one too, my brother?
yeah, that makes it easier for Amy to go and visit both her kids at the same time. Good for
Good.
her.
Tell her we want them both on the show.
Well, I could probably
You know what?
talk
They
to
just
Amy
got to
about
sit on the
get.
same couch now. It's
I
not
could
that
probably
tough.
talk to her about coming on, but um, good luck to them and all that. But he signs I think a 7 year extension at I think it was something around 8.5 million. So
Big money.
now all of a sudden people are worried about Nurse's next contract. That might be something you might want to get on right away so you can kind of have some cost certainty when it comes to Nurse.
Well, Heiskanen set the bar in Dallas, don't you think? When Miro Heiskanen signed at 8 plus or 8.5, I think you got to know that Seth Jones is getting close to that. Like people are barking about the money today and how much he got. Well, what do you think you're going to give Seth Jones? He's a Norris candidate every second year. What else can you ask for?
Yeah, but I mean, people used all the analytics to carve up Duncan Keith. Um, Seth Jones's analytical numbers last year weren't very impressive either. Do you think he's a
Yeah,
terrible? Do you think he's a terrible defenseman? Probably not. But
no,
he's
and to
he's
your
not the
point with
same
our
age though.
argument, no, no, not even freaking close. But I mean, to your point, Duncan Keith played on a poor team, and that led to poor analytics. And
Right.
Columbus is a poor team, and that's going to lead to analytics. But I would, disagree with you on the fact is that Seth Jones has not been declining for 6 years. Seth Jones had one bad year in a pandemic. Keith Jones has been okay, Keith Jones. Keith Jones
Yeah.
has been declining for a long time. Duncan Keith has been declining for 6 years, and that's a lot longer than Seth Jones. And not to mention the analytics on Keith are bad. Not just borderline, they're bad. Like I mean when you can bring up seven stats that Duncan Keith is the absolute worst at in the NHL in 5-on-5, that's not where Seth Jones sat in the analytics world, right? So, as we're both eye test guys and we've said that first, and we both don't mind analytics to be able to shape a picture for us and use all the pieces to be able to put the puzzle together. I think that Seth Jones case is more one that's like some borderline analytics that guys like to just get clickbait on because it wasn't anywhere close to as bad as what Duncan Keith presented last year. But I do expect Nurse to get around that as well. I think what so on the Norris ballot, anybody that's in that range is gonna get 8 now that Miro Heiskanen got it. I can't imagine why not. But you're
Yeah.
right; they got to get on Nurse now because his in my opinion, his value only goes up from here. And as the cap, I mean, I don't know how long we're going to be flat for, but as the cap increases, that's going to get more expensive.
Yeah, and you might want to structure that deal so that the cap hit the first 4 years of that deal or lower, and then it gets higher later. Go and get a cup. Um, that's got to be the mo here. Like get after it now.
We're going
And
to be at a
and
point. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
there's a lot of work to do. I mean, you got to start.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Um, and you need to find a replacement for Larson. Um, you need, Mike Smith for 2 years, okay, whatever. But there needs to be more than that because that wasn't enough last year. So you need to shore up that net. If
Do you think the
and
Oilers are willing to let it ride this year with goaltending, man? Like they did last year.
I think that's worst
I'm
case.
starting to be scared. You think that's worst case?
Yeah,
I hope they buy out. I hope. Is it up to Daryl Cates? Does he have to give permission? Can we buy out two people in 1 year, or does it have? Are we only allowed one?
no, I think you can buy out two, but it might not be, the savings might not be worth it.
Yeah, if we don't have trade value for Koskinen, it's getting to a point though. The way we're trying to swing and hit home runs to do it now, our team's blown up in 7 years. Anyways, this is going to be an awful mess in 7 years if Connor and Leon don't re-sign. So,
Well,
or we make it to 3 cup finals and they love it here and we do it for another 10
right,
years.
right,
Knock on wood, that's what happens, right? I mean, that's what we're all cheering for, but
right.
you're right. We got to put something in front of Connor and Leon now. Now. The time
I don't
is we
I don't know how this is going to show up, but you're kind of in that arm wrestling match now, and it's time to put the hammer down.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to turn your hat around like Stallone and over the top, I think, but
That's right. I got to turn my truck on just a second here. It's a little
Mhm.
hard to do with a headset. There we go. Now I'm ready. So you got to
Yeah,
just
let's go. Oh, oh,
over the top.
I love it.
There it is. There it is.
I love it. I love it. You look like you're 7 beer in now, not 1 beer in.
That's right. Last call.
So you want to get to our segment?
What the frack? Yeah, I'll let you shoot from the hip first. See what you got.
I thought we'd maybe, given what we've experienced over the last few days in the NHL, talk about the Seattle Kraken a little bit. Just take a break from the Oilers and maybe see, we're only going to see an expansion draft, well, once every 3 years. Just kidding, twice every 30 years. But probably not for a while, right? So, what the frack do you think of the Seattle Kraken roster?
Well, I think they're probably going to make some trades. They went pretty heavy on the D corps, and they already traded to Tyler Pitlick. He was a Seattle Kraken for what 20 minutes. Um,
I heard that deal was made 3 days before the draft.
yeah, yeah, we're taking you and we're dealing you. Yeah, um, and he's. I guess we're going to have to play against another former Oiler. Um, when he was with us, and I think when he was with Dallas, the injury bugs didn't really get away from him. So, um, but when he's healthy, he's an effective player. Um, so that's something that is kind of there. Obviously they took Adam Larson from us and Dougie Hamilton from Calgary, and that's pretty much I guess their top pairing. Um,
Giordano.
yeah, yeah. So
You said
Giordano,
Dougie.
or sorry, Mark Giordano and Larson is their top pairing. Um, so it's going to be a nasty pairing to play against, I guess, but not
Yeah,
not
it was interesting to see them go heavy on D that way. Hey, I think it's obviously they see that as a tradable asset, right? There's some value more so in D than probably in forwards. And um, what are they drafted 10, I want to say. Don't quote me, give or take one left-handed defenseman, right? So they gotta obviously get moving on that. But I would say you don't go and get Larson out of the free agency unless you plan on keeping him. So I don't really see a flip move happening there. I agree with you, and I don't think they're going to march Mark Giordano around Seattle in a Mariners jersey and a Kraken jersey and have him come up on stage and already be doing PR events if he's not going to be um, playing for that team. So, there's a lot of rumors out there that Gio might get flipped to the Rangers or somebody over in the East. And um, the more I see this out there, the more it makes me feel that he's the next captain of the Seattle Kraken. So, there's your top pairing, in my opinion.
yeah.
I heard the amount of games played quoted on the radio today, and I don't remember what it is, but I think their goaltending had a total of, I don't know, somewhere between 30 to 50 games played complete. So, you're green on the back end, depending on what they end up with this defense. Obviously, there's some strength there. Ultimately, they lack in scoring. You can see Jordan Eberle can't be your most dangerous player. I don't think that's going to get you far. Um, but all that said, man, I'm not sure that they give a crap. I think that they were dealt this different set of cards than Vegas, right? Um, Vegas had this opportunity in the first time in 20 years with this new set of rules. We've spoke numerous times about George McPhee having a few people over the barrel before the draft even came, and all these 3-for-1 deals and things that were getting thrown at him. Oh, don't take this player, and panic was there, right? And now that everybody's been through it, they're like, oh, well, all that panic sure sucks because Vegas is in the Stanley Cup final every year. And nobody was willing to bite this time, right? Not to mention Ron Francis set his price pretty high in order to not take a player. So the cards were dealt different with this deck. And it was awesome to see Ron Francis kind of take that in a different way because I feel that if I was Mr. Fantasy GM or I was starting a team from scratch on EA Sports or what have you, this is a good way to do it, man. They drafted 23-year-olds like you wouldn't believe. That are probably 50% of their team is between the age of 22 and 25. So you look at what he's trying to do when you look at that timeline, right? You think, okay, well, I'm going to flip all these guys like Pitlick and whoever else goes. Clearly, they're not carrying 15 defensemen into next year. So, there's a lot of trades to happen still for that team. And as they go and flip, if it's for assets, right, and they're picking up first round picks and second round picks and another 20-year-old and another 19-year-old and another 21-year-old and some more draft picks, and they just keep doing it and doing it, not to mention they're setting themselves up to not perform very well for the next 3 or 4 years. So they'll probably have somewhere around that second overall pick again for the next 2 or 3 years, right? So then you
Yeah.
start to look 4 to 6 years down the line, and all these 23-year-olds are in their, prime in their 27, 28, 29-year-old years. You keep the ones that have turned out and you fire off the rest. And all of a sudden you've built the way you're supposed to build, right? Like I can see Seattle Kraken having a go at a Stanley Cup in 6 to 8 years and maybe being on top of the league for 4 or 5 years after that if they can stay there. Whereas I think the way that the Oilers are operating right now, we'll take a couple quick swings over the next 3, 4 years. If we don't get it, it's going to be a crash and burn.
Uh, yeah, I mean, you've got some pretty big assets down the line if you need to reshape your team, but hopefully that is not the case because you know what that means. But yeah, I think you're on to something there with Seattle. It's a little bit of a slow burn. They're pushing
Hmm.
for a team 4 to 5 years from now, which might not be a bad way to go about it. They weren't going to get away with the stuff that Vegas got away with. I think GM's really smartened up after that whole thing went down. Um, yeah, you took two guys that are a little bit older, veteran defensemen that are shut down guys because you're going to need them. The way I see it, somebody brought up on the chat here. I'll just pull it up again for a quick second. Goal amount predictions for Ebbs. I'm going 19. That's what they said. I didn't say that, but how many goals do you think Ebbs gets in Seattle next year?
I mean, it depends what they end up with, right? That's a big what if, because if they can pull off some sort of trade where they have a decent enough first line and power play, then I could see Ebbs scoring 25 to 30 goals. I think that's just where Ebbs peaks out though. I don't think Ebbs ever turns into that 40, 50 goal scorer all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I think he has to be 23 to 28 goal range for them to be a competitive team night in night out. And
Yeah.
that's a big ask if you don't have a stud center. And I think Yanni Gord is a good centerman, but not the bona fide, like he's not Matthew Barzell, right? So
Yeah. No comments in on YouTube other than what we had for our echoes and mics.
no, we're good now on all that. Guy says here, I remember Keith and Hemsky did have a little rivalry going. Hemsky exclamation mark. And then at the bottom it says that Kraken jersey with a love and a kiss.
Yeah, that
I
white jersey looks sharp, man. I thought that was really nice. I agree with that. Who said that?
It's off of YouTube there, and it's hard to read.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
very very cool. Yeah, I totally agree. I really thought that jersey was sharp for sure. I think that whole logo, I think being called the Kraken, I don't know. I'm all over that.
I'm a fan of their dark jersey. Honestly, I like those colors.
Yeah, it'd be nice, be good to see that one on the ice. The contrast.
Yeah, I like
Else,
you
Kraken. What
know
else do you think? Anything else that's coming? Anything else you think they're looking to do? What's
from Seattle
what?
from Seattle.
Yeah, the Kraken. Yeah, exactly. Just to finish off our segment.
Yeah, I if they're gonna do anything, I think they might wheel and deal some of the defensemen that they acquired there. I think they're carrying a little too, they've got a little too much there, and they need some help up front. So maybe they didn't see anything that was left unprotected on the forward side of things that they thought was really going to help them more than what they took. But what is it? Later next week, I think the 26th maybe.
Hmm.
Free agency opens up, so maybe that's the play there, that they
Yeah.
go all in on some guys in free agency. So um, I don't know. I hope that something happened when Zach Hyman was here, and that got kind of ironed out in a sense. But I don't think I think we would have had to trade for his rights before free agency to be able to offer him 8 years. I think that's how that goes.
No,
Um,
we can still sign it. No, if the deal's for 8 years, we have to give up a compensation pick still. And then if we sign him for 7, we don't. because they gave us the chance to talk to him early.
Right. So yeah. And I haven't seen anything go down on that front. So
I
I'm
mean, if
thinking
Zach
it.
Hyman wants to come and play in Edmonton, why would you hurt us? Like, you might as well just wait and take the 7 year deal, right? Like, why do
Well,
we have to give up a draft pick? Like, you're coming to play for us, bud. You want us to give up a pick for you too? Just take your 7 years.
right. The only thing in my head that the 8 year part makes sense is you can lower the amount.
Just to spread the AVV out a little bit more. And you think that's worth I don't what's the compensation pick though? I think it's third or fourth round pick, man. Like it's
The
not peanut.
player the player to be named later. I think that has to get negotiated.
Situations.
I think that part has to get negotiated with Toronto. So yeah. So I don't know. I don't
And we
know.
have some draft picks frozen too, right? Because of that Keith third is a compensation or is
Yeah.
a conditional, pardon me. So
Right.
uh if that ends up being a second instead of a third, we can't trade that second. So now that's an asset that's frozen, right? So
Yeah.
that cuffs a little bit as well. One more reason we shouldn't have gotten Keith.
Well, I don't know why the pick was a part of that. I mean,
I mean, Chicago just proved it. They got what
I
they want. They got
I
Seth.
I like the player. I hate the trade.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've said that pretty and debated it pretty eloquently, and I get that. Like you've always said from the start that you're okay with it if it was retained half or 2.7 or anything in that range, right? But yeah, and I said I don't hate the player. I don't hate the Duncan Keiths on our team. I just think that it was just another thing we already had. We just already had a number 4, 5, 6 defenseman, and we could have used this cap differently, right? And that's that opportunity cost I keep talking about every episode. And
Yep.
you know, here we are now again talking about more opportunity cost as Zach Hyman's gonna, take
I
up a little bit more spot. And then, what if we don't get a goalie? How are we gonna react? So what do we go and spend that money on another forward or I don't know, right? Like it's now the crazy thing is that Ken Holland didn't expect to have to deal with Adam Larson, like he thought he had Adam Larson in the books and now we're in a position where he, had all these other plans to make, but this catalyst is thrown at him and he's got to go herding cats because he didn't realize that he was going to have to replace Larson and find a right-handed D. And I don't know. I heard you say last night, I don't think Barry's the answer. I agree with you, although man, any kind of depth with high end defensemen right now, I guess is useful. Like if we can get Barry on another team friendly deal like we did last year, somehow they can talk him into like another bridge contract, man. I don't hate Barry, but we can't have Bear, Bouchard, and Barry on the right side. The three Bs are all offense, they're all power play, they're all puck movers, right? Like, that Adam Larson had the grit. He's that old school player you talked about last night, and it was that's not easily replaced, right? So there's not a lot of guys out there in free agency that can do it. I don't think Hamonic, maybe Savard, but maybe you got to go trade for a Ristolainen or you got to go get Kulikov back. I guess Leo Kulikov's the left-hander though.
if
Doesn't
if
help.
you're bringing back Barry, then he's got to play with Nurse, and then
Yeah.
that probably means Keith and Bear as partners, and
Yep.
Bouchard and Russell.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't love Russell in that sixth spot either. I'm sure we still end up with something there. I think Willie Lagesson might almost be better than Russell at this point. I like Russell in that seven spot, right? Because he can play both sides and slip into a lot of different positions. But he's useful to have in that sixth spot as a penalty killer as well, right? So speaking of penalty killing, it'd be nice to have Zach Hyman on that as well, right? So that's going to definitely help an already strong penalty kill having a player like that.
He doesn't really fill the role, but maybe Zach Hyman's. Maybe there's only enough room on the team for one Zach.
Yeah, well, I smell what you're cooking there, and I wouldn't hate that because it does free up more cap space, and if we could still move Cassian somehow, I think that's kind of helps the Keith move a little bit, right? A little bit just because you can justify that you had a little more cap space coming. Man, I keep hearing that rumor out of New York Rangers, and I'm like, I know they've got Shesterkin in the number one spot there, and goalies around. I don't know if we could get Georgiev or one of those guys, but we need to do something with that goaltending position. I think we brought it up every podcast, and that should be where the Oilers are starting, man. And it seems quiet on the goaltending front, right? It's like Mike Smith signed, great. Now we've got our goalies. Like we can't let it ride. We can't, man. And so it means Koskinen has to be traded where we retain salary. So we have to find that market for him, which just immediately made my brain jump to that Vancouver deal. Like, man, why couldn't we take on OEL at full salary and instead of Keith for that matter, and take Garland for Connor McDavid? And look at all the shitty contracts that they ended up eating for those guys. Like, I feel like we could have traded Neil Koskinen and Turris and gotten OEL and Garland back and just given up a first and a second and a third. Line me up. See ya, Duncan. That
It's
would have been
it's
way better, man. Like,
it's like Arizona is the toxic wasteland for bad contracts, and for whatever reason, Ken's afraid to pick up the phone and make a call. Like everybody's sending their, damaged goods there, and it's not really costing them a lot to do it.
knock on wood, he's got something worked out there for Antti Ranta or something, like that could be something he could send Koskinen their way. And oh man, it's got to happen somehow. We got to shore up that goaltending position. And I don't know if it comes through trade, if it comes through whatever. Like, how does Detroit just go and get Nedeljkovic for nothing? Not for nothing, but pretty much,
Yeah.
right? Like that's our waiver loss that we gave away for nothing, but he ended up being in the Calder Trophy nomination, man. Like, doesn't have a ton of experience, but I'd take him over Koskinen in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do there. You got to do something though. You got to make it better than last year, because last year wasn't good enough, and you've lost Adam, so you're already, challenged on the backside.
Yeah,
I liked the Keith deal, knowing that Adam was going to be his partner, knowing that his partner is a question mark right now.
would
It's
make up.
it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure Keith and Bear are the type of part that, make up for each other's mistakes, right? Like Adam Larson's got that ability to make his partner better no matter who he plays with. And, you talk about our goaltending position already being shaky, and our top pairing went poof, dude. It disappeared into thin air. We had Clefbaum and Larson 2 years ago. Where are they, man? Clef retires. Larson just goes for nothing. Like, how do you recover your top pairing defense from 2 years ago and then go win a cup? This is not going to be easy, man. It's just not going to be easy. I don't know. I don't know how Holland pulls this off. It's going to be tricky. He's got a lot of moves to make still, so I hope they're coming. And we say it over and over. It's got to be a goalie.
Well,
Goaltending somehow,
you could see a lot happen in the next week, really.
for sure.
Um,
And I hope we do.
yeah, and you kind of need to. If it doesn't all happen, the first day of free agency, okay, but after the first couple days of free agency, that's when most guys are picked up. So, um,
Yeah. Well, the guy I wanted us to pick in the draft, went a little bit early, and that was the Edmonton Oil Kings goalie Sebastian Cossa. Is
yeah,
talked about as probably being the best goaltender in the draft, and I'd say most boards had him ranked as the top goaltender in the draft. He was in the mid 20s months ago, and slowly crept up, and I've seen him as high as 10, 11, 12 on some of these mock drafts and some of these other boards, right? So, and as the higher I saw him creep, the less I had my hopes up that the Oilers could snap him, right? And you look at the goaltending that went to the Final Four this year in the NHL, right? And who did we have? We had Andre Vasilevsky, we got Carey Price, we had, Marc-Andre Fleury, we've got goalies that were all taken in the top 10 to 15 picks in the first round of their respective drafts. All those guys were blue chip prospect studs in their drafts, and they were picked by their teams knowing that they would not use them for 3 to 4 years. And when they do, they'll have their goalie of the future. And look at all of them are going to cup finals and winning cups. And Sebastian Casa, I don't know. I mean, goalies are voodoo. We say that all the time around here. So who knows what happens? Everybody matures differently, but you got a 6'6" frame. He's one of the most athletic goalies in all of junior hockey between the dub, the junior, the O and the Q. He's got everything and all the pedigree you'd want. And then he goes to the Detroit Red Wings. Well, the Detroit Red Wings just signed or just traded for Nedeljkovic. So I don't know. I've got this little weird suspicion, or maybe it's just a hope. But what's say Ken Holland calls up his old protege Stevie Y there and says, "Hey, thanks for taking our franchise goalie for us in that first pick, and here's how we'll make it up to you." And maybe that's a ridiculous statement because you don't just give away franchise goalies if that's what you believe they are. But maybe knowing that he was gonna have a chance at drafting Casa, he went and got Nedeljkovic to you know, I don't know. I something inside me says maybe they got something worked out. We can still grab our goalie that way, but I don't know what else is out there really, Like if it's not Ranta and it's not Nedeljkovic and it's not Georgiev, then ugh.
We've been too cordial tonight, so I'm just gonna come out and ask you if you still believe in Santa Claus.
I mean, I no.
just the what goes through my head is just Stevie Y is a good GM, and a good GM always has an insurance plan. So maybe getting two goalies is his insurance plan, and it's no favors. He's just looking out for his own team.
Thanks for stepping on my dream, Durs. Yeah, you
Well,
got logic there, bro. That's facts. I know. Like, you don't draft a franchise goalie to trade him, and where whoever else they have in Detroit, Thomas Grice, is that who's there? I guess that's a fine NHL pairing for a team that probably wants to lose and get draft picks for the next few years, anyways, right? So you're probably right. Maybe Nedeljkovic's a gap stop until Sebastian Koss is ready in 3-4 years, and maybe that's their tandem. I'm sure you're right, but a guy can dream. I don't know. I wouldn't mind either one of those goalies. I guess that's why I try to dream it up. And as soon as I see, any time of those guys like Holland and Iserman, or Iserman looking back at Tampa Bay, and there's lots of those GMs that leave a team or go to another place and still have that relationship, and you see a lot of that way. But
if Edmonton really wanted that guy, what would it have taken to bump up 5 spots in the draft to be able to get the goalie they wanted?
Jeez,
It's
that point, man. Yeah,
that's
yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, you're using my point. That's if they were buddies and that's who he really, really wanted, and Holland wanted Casa, and that pick was there when Steve was about to take him. I'm sure he would have traded for the pick, not waited and traded for the goalie. I'm sure you're right.
well.
I can believe in Santa Claus if I want to believe in Santa Claus. Okay.
You can use my point against me because it does have an X Files kind of coincidental feel to it, but no,
Yeah.
if I think if Edmonton really wanted that goalie and they believe that that's the road they wanted to go, just flip a pick at that point to move up in the draft and get the guy you want. So something tells me that they are in a win now mode, and to draft that goalie, you're still probably 3-4 years before he's just kind of coming in as a rookie. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I kind of hope there's another succession plan here for an immediate um, insurgence of a goalie that can be a showstopper. Mike Smith is not that guy. He can play well probably for 30-40 games next season, and I don't have a problem with that. And with the money you paid him, okay, that's probably what it's worth. Um,
Yeah,
I thought he was fine last year, but it just wasn't enough when the playoffs came down, and I don't know how it gets to be enough. Um, that him being another year older, and um, I don't see
the
him.
travel this year is going to be something else too, right? Like, you're in a pandemic year and you're only playing in Canada and you got short flights and, a little bit of cushier travel than what you're used to when you're flying across the continent all the time. So you put Mike Smith into 40 games where he's flying, coast to coast, and that's a little bit of a different different result. I'm thinking, especially when you're a year older and the game's getting another step faster and whatnot. So yeah, I don't mind Smitty at 30, 40 games. With that 2 year contract and two per, I certainly didn't need to see that second year. I think that if they still have that same relationship and they want to do a guy a favor by giving him that second year, just give him the second year when the second year comes. You know what I mean? Like we could have just went one more year and one more year. I don't get it, but especially when more of the money is in the second year of that contract, like you're kind of banking on Smitty being your backup next year, and you just paid him 2.5 next year to be your backup instead. You know what I mean? Like it's odd. But that has to be the first move. It has to be goaltending. Until we shore that up, I'm not going to be able to feel confident and get my 8 hours sleep at night, knowing that we're set up where we need to be to win now. Until that move is made and we've got that goaltending position shored up, it's still a bag of popcorn for me, man. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we need to.
Well, it's a twofold problem really. Like if you're going with status quo in net, and you've lost Adam Larson, then who's the replacement there? You gotta fix both, in my opinion. But if you're going with status quo again in net, then who's replacing Adam Larson becomes crucial. And if it's Tyson Barrie, then you sign Zach Hyman, and then you'd need another forward because you're going to need to go back to 80s Oilers scoring a million goals a night, or you're just not going to
Yeah.
get it done.
Well, we talk about Smith, maybe taking a diminishing return step down this year. Well, not having Adam Larson is certainly going to facilitate that.
You just got to fix your window. For some reason, you got smaller.
It's because you were yelling at me.
I guess, yeah. Shrinking violet.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you took that off the tip of my tongue. Uh, in respect to moving forward and trying to win now, if that forward depth needs to come as well. So, do you think that next player is still gonna be a winger? Do you think we go after a center? Do you think we try to take Nuge off of the second line and drop him down to a third line and have three scoring lines? Or are we gonna, go with the forward group we've got now, focus on goaltending? We need a right-handed defenseman, so now all of a sudden that's a priority. I think we've got 10 or 12 million in cap space as it sits right now. I heard you say last night that we probably buy out James the real deal Neal, and I think I probably have to agree with you based on where we're at now at this point in time. So, maybe we can squeeze a little bit more cap room there. But it's already tight, man. We went from having 25 and half of it's gone, and I don't think we've made really the pieces that we need yet.
You
Hyman's
keep shrink.
nice, but
You keep
it's not
shrinking.
Hyman isn't the difference between taking us to the cup and not taking us to the cup.
Yeah, no, it's going to take more than a Zach Hyman acquisition for
And I see
to
Keith
go.
as a neutral acquisition. I don't really see him as that much of a gain because as much as he hurts us on the cap and hurts us on that, he helps us on the other side. And so really, I think that just was 5.5 million of cap space burnt. Just started on fire and poof. And
Well,
so
well,
now Zach Hyman's a positive gain, but now we're down to 12 million. And what do we spend that on?
why do you keep shrinking on me? Um, when it comes to um, if Barry is the guy that they get, if that's the defenseman they get to put on the right side. To your point earlier about Nuge going to the third line, no, you need two bona fide scoring lines, and you need a third line and a fourth line that can shut things down. Becomes vital.
I see a lot of the NHL shifting to three scoring lines and one shutdown line, right? And I mean, there's a lot of the teams going far in the playoffs have that third line that can score too, right? So I mean, it just
Yep.
depends. You talk about us playing old '80s Oilers style. Well, if we're gonna do that, we need a third line that can score. If we're gonna play typical nowadays hockey, um, we need to shore up that defense. We need to. Our power play can only remain so dangerous for so long. I think before can we just keep setting record after record after record every year of power play success, or does that catch up with you eventually? I don't know. Maybe when you have McDavid, it doesn't matter.
So on the Periscope chat says, "Have you seen this Montreal puck talk? I just rewound the draft, and their pick is quite polarizing." I'm not
I didn't
sure
see the
actually who
Montreal pick.
Montreal selected. Yeah.
We talked about Vegas and then went to that Montreal pick right after. I'll look it up. I didn't see actually.
Um, I mean, having a strong power play and strong penalty kill, um, I think is what you need, what it takes to get into the playoffs. And but everything, the whistles seem to go away when the playoffs start. So um, you need to be able to defend.
Yep.
Logan Malou, he
Logan
renounced
Mizzou.
himself.
He what? Oh, that's that guy. Yeah, oh, interesting. That is polarizing then. I like that comment. Yeah, so Logan Malou. Okay, so he's a defenseman. He's 6'3", 212 pounds. He played in London. And geez, what did he do? I just heard about this. I don't want to paint him with the wrong brush, but I want to say that he got in some trouble, or maybe had even
Yeah,
an accusation of some kind against him that he was embarrassed of, and came out and said that the NHL is a place that you deserve to be, that deserves respect, and he made a mistake and he doesn't have the maturity to be an NHL pick right now, and that he based on that is should play another year of junior and mature and renounce, and said, please don't pick me this year in the draft. Said, I don't want to be picked because I don't deserve to be picked.
you know what?
Interesting.
That's I'm not laughing at the that whole part of it, but I just reading he it says he took a picture of a girl he slept with and distributed
That's
it
what it
socially.
was. That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
um,
And was
that's not
found
cool.
guilty.
That's not
Not
cool.
cool,
But
dude.
just seeing the earlier part of this, he renounced himself, and all I can think of is Coming to America when I renounce my throne, Hakeem. If you want, I will renounce my throne. So sorry,
Uh, you're
sorry,
aging us again.
sorry to make a joke out of something that's not really funny, but yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, he was the defamation charge came through. He was guilty, and I believe he took a photo and or video of a young lady while they were in the act of something and distributed it. So there you go. Lesson learned. Guy works his whole life to get to reach his goals, and gets to the point where he's eligible, and has to literally say, I'm not ready to reach my goals yet. I give a kid credit. Took probably some balls to come out and say that, even if he was coached or whatever, that's still a kid's dream, right? He probably lived his whole life wanting to be drafted into the NHL, and maybe if he's good enough, he goes the next year anyways. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this shakes out. I'm sure Bergevin's going to be scrutinized for it heavily.
yeah, that's quite the thing. So do they hold on to his rights then, or he just pulls the shoot on his whole thing, or I don't
Well,
even know
he
how
just
that
said,
works.
"Don't draft me." At the end of the day, if they say, "Here's your entry level contract," what's he gonna say? You either just sign on the dotted line and he's a player, or he can go, "No, I
Mm.
don't deserve it, and I won't sign till next year," or something, right? Or he might say the mature move is, "Look, I had renounced, and I feel strongly about that, so I'm going back to London no matter what, and I'm not signing any ELC contracts until after that season, and so be it." But at the end of the day, all he said was, "Don't draft me." There's no rules. It's not like Montreal can't draft him if they don't want to, and if they sign or if they offer him an entry level contract, then so be it. He's an NHLer, right? And at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. So,
So
uh,
do they get that pick back, or is that just a lost pick?
if he decides not, in what scenario? If he decides not to,
Like if he pulls the shoot on being drafted, then do they get a pick back? Does that Like
It's
when
not,
does that
I don't
happen?
think you can pull the shoot on being drafted. I think you just say, I'm not going to sign that entry level contract until the next year. And then he either goes back into the draft or no, they don't get it back. It's just a waste, right? You have to sign, you have to have your 50 contracts and you have to sign guys. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think his strategy is to offer him a contract and probably thinks he's going to take it.
As the
If he
kids
walks
say,
away from it, then what?
tough scene.
Tough scene for Logan Malou and Bergevin. Um, maybe you don't see that many French Canadian kids that are top round eligible either, right? And you got to know that Montreal market's looking for their next French stud. They always are. You look at, Jonathan Drouin and the picks or the Sergachev and the different assets they gave up to try and pull that off. And I don't think Drouin turned out for them, but they've been looking for a French center, a French defenseman for forever. So maybe they see that as the biggest bang for their buck at pick 31 and they see value in the kid and they like that he speaks their language and it is what it is. Bergevin's just willing to take the heat. Here's
Oh man.
the uh here's the statement from Logan Malou. The NHL draft should be one of the most exciting landmark moments of a player's career, and given the circumstances, I don't feel I've demonstrated strong enough maturity or character to earn that privilege in the 2021 draft. Bob McKenzie, shocked that Montreal took Logan Malou 31st overall, even though he asked the NHL teams not to take him because of a sex-related criminal charge.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, whoever that
um,
sent that message in. Any other messages there?
that was at RELL Turner, Rel Turner on the Twitterverse.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
interesting.
yeah. It's not cool what he did, but I think it's cool that he recognizes that he did something he shouldn't have done and wants to make amends.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about it. He could just put his head down and get drafted and go out his way, I guess, right? And a lot of kids have done that before too. So,
And message we're getting is that's from Chaboy Real Star with a thumbs up on the old Twitterverse.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Checks in the mail.
I had a couple comments or messages that came in not on the live one, but just in after our last show. So, um, I got one here from Stefan that said, "Good job on the episode, boys. I liked your What the Frack segment. Looking forward to seeing what the future questions will be. It helps as a listener connect to you guys, in my opinion, when you can talk about topics like that. Great discussion on the protection list. I'm also not sure about Cassian. Cassian from 2 years ago, great. Cassian last year, not so much. I'd also hate to lose Tyler Benson. So, well, good news there. We didn't lose Tyler Benson, but unfortunately, we lost Adam Larson instead. So that sucks. I got another one here from Jeremy in New York that says, I'll say this for Dash. When he goes to war for an argument, he really goes to war.
Uh huh.
Uh-huh. I like that one. I got this one from Petey in Wynyard. He says, as a Sabres fan, I can relate to the discussion here. Worrying about Benson and Cassian types is similar to wondering if Tage Thompson or Gergensen should have been protected. This is what it comes to on teams without depth. And in my opinion, Mike Smith is not the answer. But he looks like a good version of Bill Ranford compared to what Buffalo has in the crease right now.
It's funny when you look down, you get super huge on me. You like go out of the frame. It's crazy. You are a massive human being right now.
It's the way I roll.
your
Except when I'm shrinking violet.
your head covers the whole screen right now. You are insanity. I might want
I
to
feel
adjust
I
that.
feel insanity.
I'm afraid to adjust you though, because every time I do, then you change. But
Well, point of all that is keep the messages coming in. We love reading them, and anything you want to type in during the show, that's pretty awesome too. We like being interactive like that. Um, I'm gonna hold it against Dursa that I heard him say the words. This is a lot easier when I have Dash here in yesterday's pod, so I'm gonna take that as a compliment. And I also saw a listener writing in going, "Where's the other mic?" So looks like I've got some people concerned and looking for me too. So sorry to disappoint my fans, but that was a pretty important evening last night.
yeah, well, like I said, a wise fisherman once told me, "While you're busy making plans, life happens," and that's kind of what happened yesterday. So
Yeah,
we go with the flow, and bring out the best, Oilers podcast there is. Well, we're trying.
trying. We're trying. Awesome, man. Well, I don't know, any other messages or anything you want to touch on there, or any other last things, or have we done enough damage here?
You know, I think, well, I think we are in shape to close out and back again Sunday with Inked Oil, Mr. Rob. I'm looking forward to that one. It should be a good time.
Yeah, me too. He's some dude.
had the pleasure to have supper with Robbie there and a couple of beers. He's a good guy, and talking hockey with him should be a lot of fun. And I'm excited for that one. So if you got any letters, go ahead, and then I'll
Yeah, I'm excited to hear his takes too.
right on.
No, just thanks for listening. We're around on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, so keep listening, and we'll keep trying to push out content. And we're still under construction, so bear with us as we go through some late starts and little audio glitches. But trust me, Mike are working hard on the backside, trying to make sure that this comes out clean. And I think it's important to say the number one question that I actually do get asked is that once we have these podcasts saved, we'll get the audio edits done, and the audio edits are done, they get loaded automatically into Spotify, iTunes, and a lot of those other places where you can actually download our podcast and listen while you drive, listen while you work, or listen while you're driving on traffic, because Ken Holland doesn't have a goalie. But whatever it is, bear with us. We just have to get started as soon as possible. There's fun other stuff that's happening, and I sure have a great time talking hockey with you, man. So I hope we keep doing this.
All right, sounds good. I think Twitter kept up to YouTube tonight. When I went last night, YouTube was lapping Twitter. Those kids on Facebook need to pick up their socks a little bit because there's not much going on there. But that's because the people that I know are busy doing things. But we're going to close it here. We'll see you Sunday right around 9, hopefully. And what I always say, keep your stick on the ice and keep reaching for the stars. And go, go. Have a good night.